So good morning, everybody. Very sorry I can't be with you in Udine this morning. I hope anyway you're having an interesting conference so far. My name is Simon Clement. I work for ICLEI Local Governments for Sustainability. Some of you may know our organisation. We're a global association of local governments working towards urban sustainability. And I'm here this morning to talk to you about the SCI Network, a project which we recently completed, which was looking at the procurement of sustainable and innovation construction. Next slide, please. Now, you've probably heard several of these figures already this morning, or are familiar with them anyway. The construction sector is, of course, extremely important, both in terms of the environmental footprint that it has, and in terms of the economic importance of the sector. Particularly significant here is the leverage that the public sector can have within the construction market, given that the amount of public sector spending is approximately 40% of all construction spend in Europe, which gives the public sector, of course, huge power to shift the market towards more sustainable, more innovative solutions. Next slide, please. When we're talking about sustainability in the construction field, this is very, very varied, of course. Many different aspects to take into consideration in construction projects, from the obvious, such as energy performance and choice of materials, to issues such as water use, indoor air quality. Then in more financial terms, the life cycle costs of a building, so not just the construction costs of a building, but also what are the maintenance costs, what are the usage costs, what are the energy and water costs of a building, how long is the lifespan of a building, and what might the demolition costs of this building be. And we can also think in terms of interaction with the urban environment. Now, in all of these areas, there is a great deal of innovation constantly coming onto the market, whether we're talking about new innovative materials, new innovative technologies, HVAC technologies, for example, or new design concepts, so the way we actually construct buildings and the way we design them, and the way we actually build them, so the actual sustainable construction processes themselves. A whole range of different areas where there already is innovation, but of course where there also could be more. Next slide, please. The big challenge for us is how we actually bring those innovations into public construction projects. And what this means in practical terms is how do we become innovation friendly in our construction procurement. And this was the basis of the SCI network. Next slide, please. What I have next is a couple of good examples to emphasize the fact that there are many practices happening around Europe already in this area. These are a little bit old now, but of course there are new ones coming up all of the time. A couple of examples here. First of all, Harold Hill Fire Station in London, where they achieved the BREEAM excellent standard with 42% less energy than a normal fire station, and included a number of innovative technologies within the design concept for the fire station. Another example for Vienna, which was the renovation of an old building, where they achieved a over 50% reduction in energy consumption, achieving both the green building and Klimaaktiv standards. Next slide, please. A couple of further examples. The first one from Germany, which the Seecampus Niederlausitz was the first passive house standard school in Germany, achieved through a public-private partnership with very low heating requirements. And then another example rather closer to home, to you in Udine, in Emilia-Romagna, a social housing project where through an ESCO there are guaranteed annual energy savings of 35%, and of course using an energy performance contract, the upfront investment costs are actually covered by the ESCO in this project. So a wide variety of different types of examples from different parts of Europe. Next slide, please. But there are many challenges facing public authorities in achieving more innovative construction approaches. Here's a short list. I hope everyone can read these slides appropriately, but I will, of course, email them to the conference organisers so that you can see. The first of these is a lack of knowledge of innovative solutions on the market and in-house expertise on sustainable construction. So there are many new innovations coming in all the time, but how is a public procurer, how is a public construction procurer meant to keep up with these developments? Understanding how to set up your procurement processes in an innovation-friendly way. This has not been the standard approach in public procurement, which is rather more restrictive, rather more traditional in its approach. So how can we change those processes to make them more innovation-friendly? The issue of risk when you're talking about innovative solutions is, of course, extremely important. And how can we best manage that within a procurement process Another key area, not just in construction, but in many procurement areas, is the little dialogue there exists between public authorities and potential suppliers. So talking to suppliers before you go to tender about what you might achieve, what the possibilities are, and what you can't achieve by the same token. Construction supply chains and procurement procedures are also rather complex, which makes it a little bit more difficult to take a holistic view in your construction procurement. And one very significant area, again not simply restricted to the construction field, is the split of budgetary responsibilities. In many public authorities, one department will be responsible for investment or purchase costs, another will be responsible for energy costs, another for maintenance costs, and potentially another for disposal costs. And this split doesn't tend to encourage the use of a life cycle costing approach. Next slide, please. Okay, so the SCI network, as explained, was set up because of this. And what we are, is a network of European public authorities who are sharing their experiences in how we can drive innovative and sustainable construction projects. The project was funded by the EU Lead Market Initiative, and I think you already had a speech today from Bertrand Vert, who was our desk officer for this project. Next slide, please. Here's a list of the project partners. You can see that this also includes the city of Torino, and we also work very closely with Environment Park Torino within the project. Next slide, please. Okay, and what we have produced within the project are mainly two guides. The first of these, the top right, Procuring Innovative and Sustainable Construction, a guide for European public authorities. And what this has done is sets out a series of recommendations which we have discussed and refined over the course of the project for how a public authority can best purchase innovative construction solutions. All of these guides are available on the SCI Network website. This guide is also available in Italian and in several other languages as well. The other main publication we have from the project, this one here, is the European Public Authority Snapshots Collection. And this is a series of about 45-50 individual case study examples from across Europe, where public authorities have achieved, indeed, innovative results in their procurement. So, as I say, both of these are freely available on the website of the SCI Network. If you're also interested in a hard copy, you can write to me and I can have these sent out. Okay, next slide, please. In the second half of the presentation, I just want to very briefly cover a few of the recommendations that we have included in the guide. I can't be comprehensive here, as there's a long list, but just to pull out a few of the important ones. So first of all, this is how we've structured the guide, the topics that we've looked at, which includes how are you an intelligent client, setting targets and requirements, working with the market, choosing your procurement procedure, contracting, monitoring and supplier management, and life cycle whole life costing. This is somehow progressive through a procurement procedure, but of course the issues jump around a little bit as well. Next slide, please. The first of these, probably the most important in fact, is being an intelligent client. How do you make sure that you are capable of running an innovative construction project? So for example, one of the recommendations here is to establish at the beginning of the project a team with the required management, technical, legal and commercial skills to pursue the project from start to finish. Ensure within this also that end users or facility managers are involved in the team. An extension point from this is, of course, where in-house experience with innovative construction is limited, you can also consider contracting external consultants to advise or to manage that process. Next slide. A couple of examples in terms of setting targets and requirements. Identify an ambitious minimum quantified energy performance requirement for the construction project. For example, the passive house standard, if you want to be extremely ambitious. Frame your procurement requirements in terms of the desired performance rather than defining a specific technology or a technical solution that you want. So encourage the market to come back to you with the best ways of achieving the targets that you want to set rather than being prescriptive. Next slide, please. Working with the market. Very important point at the top. Inform the market of your intention to reward sustainability sufficiently in advance of tendering. Now, most public authorities don't do this. Most public authorities simply go out to tender and say this is what we want. And that case, perhaps the market is not ready to meet your requirements. If you inform the market several months, even a year before you launching the tender, what you intend to do, the market has time to prepare for that tender, and the results you get should be better. When tendering, clearly state your desire for a sustainable outcome and your openness to innovative solutions. On the market, contractors often regard the public sector as rather un-innovation friendly and would perhaps come back with more traditional solutions. If you indicate very clearly in what you're doing that you want innovation, you might get more innovative responses. Undertake early market engagement activities for all construction-related procurements above a minimum threshold. Next slide, please. Identify a procurement model which ensures sufficient integration and cooperation between design and construction. This is another key issue, key failure often in construction projects, that in some cases the design team does its work, stops, passes across to the construction team, which does its work, stops, passes on to the owner. And these disconnects can often lead to unoptimal solutions and an incorrect apportioning of blame as well. Consider the use of incentivization in construction contracts themselves to actually encourage innovation. So you can include, for example, performance payments in the construction contracts which you let. You can include gain share clauses where some of the gains come back to the company themselves. And you can also negotiate contract extensions for perhaps innovative solutions. Next slide, please. Last one, life cycle costing. Identify a suitable model for life cycle costing at project planning stage, and use this to inform decisions throughout the procurement process, not just in the tendering, but also in the planning stage and also in the monitoring stage afterwards. To try and combat this split budget issue, perhaps consider setting up joint project teams using both procuring and operating departments so that people can see the benefits of taking the life cycle costing approach. Okay. Last slide, I believe. Next slide. Good. Okay, so that's just a sample of some of the recommendations we have. As I say, you can see more of those on the website we have at the bottom, SCI-Network.eu. And of course, you can also email me at simon.clement@iclei.org if you have any further questions, or if you would like to receive a hard copy of the guide. Okay, thank you all, and I hope you have a nice conference.